Hello, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jen Sheridan, the Family Services Coordinator here at the Coleman Center in Petal, Mississippi. And today we will be talking about parenting with grace, how grace and forgiveness fit into the lifestyle of the healthy family. I am a social worker by trade, and that is exactly what I get to do here at the Coleman Center. I work with families of all shapes and sizes and young kiddos who need help in a lot of different ways. And I think for me as a social worker and therapist, and me just as a mom and just as a person living in this world, I need help reminding myself and reminding the others that I come in contact with how much grace and forgiveness are so important to fostering a healthy culture within our family, within the workplace, and I would say even within ourselves. So today we're going to talk about that. We're going to have some examples towards the end and talk about, some ways we might have responded to some situations and maybe how we want to tweak those responses in the future. So let's start off, as we always do when we talk about some trigger words. I always like for us to define these because I think it's good to get a clear understanding of what this is as much as we can, because I think both of these are words that sometimes we struggle with getting a precise definition. So forgiveness, this is from the Oxford English Dictionary. Thank you for that resource, Google. So it said forgiveness is when you stop feeling angry or resentful towards someone else for just an offense, a flaw, a mistake, something that they have done. They also gave a definition of canceling, like canceling a debt. And then used in polite expressions as a request to excuse or regard indulgently one's foibles, ignorance, or impoliteness. I like that definition. And then grace, excuse me, the two that I thought were most apropos for our talk today was free and unmerited favor. Now, if you have grown up in like a Christian tradition or you practice Christianity, this may be something that you are familiar with. This is talked about, you guys know I'm here in the Deep South, and so we are swimming in the middle of the Bible Belt. So this is something that a lot of the families that I work with have a concept of, or they've at least heard the word, even if they may not be able to give a definition of it, because it's one of those things we kind of take for granted here in my area, that we all just know what this is, and we all extend it to one another, which we certainly do not all the time. So free and unmerited favor, this could be free and unmerited favor from God. But I think even just free and unmerited favor, that definition alone is going to describe the kind of grace that I'm looking for to have towards my own children, and what I would like for parents to have towards their children, especially when they're coming here to see me to work on some things. And then courteous goodwill. So, okay, so we've got our definitions, we've got the brass tacks, we've got a clear understanding, maybe not super clear, but we have a simple understanding of these two concepts. So we're going to go in and let's talk about specifically forgiveness, because I think grace weaves its way through all of this that we're about to talk about. When we talk about forgiveness and talk about using it as a tool to teach our children, and using it as an opportunity to make amends and to repair what's going on in our lives, within the lives of ourselves and within the family unit. So what happens when we avoid apologizing? So oftentimes I'll have families tell me, when I ask about forgiveness, they'll say, or I ask about apologizing and asking for forgiveness, I should say, what that's like for them to do that as parents. And most of the time I get a lot of like blank stares and a lot of like, let me think about this. But if I were to ask them, tell me the last time you made your child apologize to their brother or sister for kicking them, or when was the last time you made them apologize to the kid in their Sunday school class that they stole the toy from? And they probably could tell me, 2 weeks ago, they grabbed a toy out of their cousin's hand, and their cousin's just a baby and started crying. And I said, you need to tell them you're sorry and give that toy back. And while that is a way to teach forgiveness, that is a way to teach a child how to apologize. It's not really what we're looking for in that. It's the only way we're teaching them, through words. I want us as parents, want us as caregivers to be modeling forgiveness and modeling how we do this, because when we don't, the message we communicate is that that making mistakes and doing things that we need to apologize for, right, that would warrant that, that makes us a bad person. And so we need to avoid it, because we've got to avoid shame at all costs. Shame is just, oh my gosh, if there's one thing, maybe if I could wipe that, shame would be part of it, because I think shame ties into a lot of misbehaviors. Maybe we could say a lot of like inappropriate behavior, because we're trying to cover up our shame, right? We don't want anyone to know that we made a mistake, that there's fault in us, because what shame tells us is that we are bad, not that we did a bad thing, not that we made a bad choice, right? This concept is when we have to teach our children, right? The world is not teaching them this sort of way. The world, excuse me, in childhood is saying, ooh, that kid's bad. That kid's bad. He's just bad. She's just bad, right? And I know for a fact, if we teach this, we correct this, even within the speech of our children, we are helping them to see the world and to see people differently. So one of my pet peeves is when parents say, he's just bad. That doesn't even make sense to me. He's just bad, like inherently. So that baby was born bad. I just don't agree with that. Like, my philosophy on humanity just doesn't encompass that. And we might could get into a theological debate about that in person, if you ever want to us have a discussion about that. But so I can't stand that. It's just a pet peeve. And so when my kiddos started, get a little older in school, and they would come home and they would talk about what's going on, with Johnny, what's going on with Sally, what's going on with whoever is the kid in their class. And they would say, he's just bad. He's a bad kid. Right. Now, my kids have learned that they've learned that from someone. They've heard that spoken. And they're trying to situate, good from bad, right? They're concrete thinkers at that stage, and in that like 7 to 11 age bracket. And so what I started saying was, I don't know if he's bad, but maybe he's making bad choices, right? Maybe he doesn't have a mom at home that's teaching him how to make a good choice. Maybe he just hasn't learned that yet. Maybe his mom's still working on that with him, or his dad's still teaching him that, right? So fast forward, I've gotten 5 good years with my kids since my kids have been home with me. And just the other day, my daughter's standing in the kitchen and she's telling me the story. And this kid, he's just bad. He is, and she pauses for just a split second. He's just making bad choices in the classroom. And we start talking. She was telling me the story about this kiddo that was making some bad choices, that needed extra help, support to make a better decision. And if you had been there, you would have never noticed. You would have just thought she's just processing out loud. But what I noticed was that she stopped herself from saying he was bad to he made some bad choices. This is what apologizing does. This is what we do. We teach that we don't have to live in shame. We don't have to think I am bad. He is bad. Just that there are choices that we make that sometimes we have to ask forgiveness for. So another thing we teach when we apologize ourselves as the adult, as the caregiver, is that it's okay. We're going to make mistakes in relationships, but that is important to repair. It's important to repair. And I think here on my slide it says okay to damage and not repair. That's what we teach when we avoid apologizing, right? That we're going to damage a relationship, and that's fine. We don't need to repair that relationship. Now, do we need to repair and have the same relationship? Maybe not. You know, if I were to be counseling a woman in a domestic violence situation, you know, would I want her to apologize for something or have her husband apologize and not repair that? Yeah, I want that relationship repaired, but it may not need to look the same way, right? We may need a split in that relationship. But when we avoid apologizing, we're saying that in these important connected relationships that we have that are healthy for the most part, that it's okay to not repair. Nope, that's not what I want to teach my kiddo. I've got to teach them that we need to repair the relationship because ultimately that's what they're looking for is connection. I feel like a broken radio was saying that to you guys. So another thing we do is that we don't apologize. We convey the message that like, if I apologize, I'm gonna lose my status. I'm gonna lose my power, my authority as the mom. That's not happening. It's not happening. Now we get into that mindset. We all do it. We're like, I'm not apologizing. I'm not apologizing for screaming because I'm the mom. And as the mama, I can just lose it and it'll be fine. And it was them anyway, right? We're going to talk about blame in a second. But guys, if we're avoiding apologizing, this is what we're doing. We're communicating that once you get to a certain level or stage, nope, you don't have to apologize anymore. You just do what you want. You're the queen of the world. And when you're queen of the world, whatever you say goes. And guys, it's just not the truth. It's just not truth anywhere. And then another thing is we don't want our kids growing up understanding that apologizing only comes when we're forced. Apologizing is only about doing it when you absolutely have to get what you want. No, I want my kids to learn a different way, right? Okay, so here's what we're going to look for in an apology, right? Now, if you have a really, really young kiddo, 2, 3, even, and they're not super verbal, right? We may teach them just to, can you say you're sorry? And they might say sorry or, you know, something to that effect. And that's really all. But as soon as they are merging into that verbal stage, right, where we're putting together concepts, we're putting together maybe, you know, a 3-4 word sentence, we're looking for a specific apology, right? So I'm teaching kiddos here in the playroom that if we say we're sorry, let's say what we're sorry about. Because sometimes they'll say, sorry. And I do this too. You know, I'm like, sorry. Oh, sorry. Right. I don't know why I'm saying that, right? But if I say, I'm sorry, or I coach my kiddo into saying, I'm sorry I broke your toy, right? Which just happened this morning. I had a visit this morning and a kiddo dropped one of my toys and it's like kind of, it's not really ceramic. I don't really even know what it's made out of, but you know, it's probably made more for looking than touching, but I have toys for touching. And they dropped it on the floor and the top part broke. All the look on their face, there was remorse, there was anguish. They were devastated. And I said, it's okay, we all make mistakes, right? And they said, we all make mistakes, right? They were looking for that validation, that confirmation. So then we got to move on. So we're going to resist the urge to blame too, right? I'm not blaming the kid. I mean, the kid dropped the toy and it broke. It's fine. I bought the toy, right? I knew it probably was going to break at some point, but I bought it for $1 and I said, I'm willing to risk it, right? And so I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to allow them to make excuses, and I'm not going to make excuses when I go into for an apology. I'm sorry I yelled at you, little Johnny, but you really made me mad, right? That's putting the pressure on Johnny to never do anything that's going to make me mad. That is not a life we can live, guys. It's just not. Our kiddos can't live under that kind of responsibility. and I'm responsible for my feelings, and I'm responsible for my own reactions to those feelings, whether they are rational or not. We all know feelings are irrational, right? Right. Those crazy emotions oftentimes are irrational. So what I'm also going to do is look for a do-over. You just do that again. So if I'm looking for an apology or I'm coaching my kiddo into an apology, I'm going to say, do you want to ask for a do-over? Right? You want a redo is what we say a lot here in the playroom. And if we get into this habit, or sometimes our kiddos will just start doing this spontaneously. Again, setting the foundation so they can do this on their own later. So I'm also going to look for a plan for repair. So how can we make this right? Right? Like you just lost it. You lost it. You screamed at me. You said, I'm the worst mom ever. How can we repair that? You might need to apologize because this was painful for me emotionally. But what I need you to do now is pick up all the pillows off of the floor. Like in order to make it right, please pick up all the pillows off the floor. I'm not asking that when my kiddo's still raging, right? The kid's thrown all these toys across the thing and they're having a temper tantrum. I'm not saying like in the middle of that temper tantrum. No, we've talked about when is a good time to do that in previous webinars. But what I'm looking for is like, how do we repair this relationship, right? And then I'm going to make a plan for next time. What will this look like the next time this goes down? When things start going south, how will we handle this better? Okay, next time you're really frustrated at me because I asked you to clean your room, I want you to just tell me with your words. You're really frustrated. You could say something like, I'm really frustrated, Mom. So much better than you just coming up and hitting me or kicking me, right? Or completely ignoring me. Okay, so what are we covertly teaching our kiddos when we apologize? We are teaching them everyone makes mistakes. Just like that kiddo this morning that broke my toy. Everybody breaks things, right? It just happens. I've broken glasses at my house before. My kiddos have broken glasses. My husband has broken glasses, right? Like this is the risk we're willing to take when I bring non-plastic cups into the mix of the Sheridan house. It's okay. It's okay because that's the risk I'm willing to take because I want to drink out of a real glass, right? So the next thing we do is that we teach we all hurt others and we can make amends. So this goes back to repairing, right? I want them to learn that it's important to repair. I want them to learn this concept because I know ultimately they want connection with others. And if you want to maintain connections, you're going to have to learn how to make amends. And if you can't, then you're going to have short connections and you're never going to reach a deeper level of intimacy. It's what we all really desire, right? It's one of those things that my kiddos, when they say funny things like, I'm never getting married. I don't know what they think marriage is, but a lot of kissing and hugging maybe. But they say funny things like that. And I say, you probably will because you'll want somebody that knows you really intimately and still loves you no matter what, right? Like it's going to make it. And so when I get to apologize to my kids, like not have to, but get to, right? When I do something that I don't want them to emulate in this season of life or when they become a mom or dad, then I get to teach them that they can repair those relationships. And we do that because relationship itself is important. Okay, the next thing is apologies really help the other person feel better about us. So when I apologize, I want them to have more affection and see me in a better light. I don't think that's a negative thing. I'm not doing it just to people please, but again, I'm doing this because I am valuing that relationship and I know that they need to see me in a particular light, like they need to see that this relationship with me is worth having. That's why I do it in the playroom here. I make a mistake and I say, oh, Miss Jen, sorry about forgetting to, have snack time. Or if snack time is important to the kiddo that I'm seeing. Or I'll say, oh, Miss Jen did say we were going to make slime today, and I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. Will you forgive me? And if they say yes, I'll say, could we do it next time? I hate that I forgot. And I take on that blame, right? Because it's my fault. If I told them one week we're going to make slime the next, and then I just forget to get the materials, and then they show up and I say, oh no, right? I'm modeling this for them that we can still maintain this relationship. And I want them to have positive regard towards me, just like I'm willing to have positive regard towards them. I think unconditional positive regard is something that we lose, especially when our kiddos are habitually stubborn. Maybe that's a positive way to say that. Are willing to go the distance to maintain control. Now, control is there for a lot of different reasons. Control gets a lot of different needs met, and we don't have time to discuss that today. But if our kiddos are in that constant state of fight or flight and survival mode, oftentimes we lose unconditional positive regard for our kids. It's the saddest, it's the most devastating thing, but it's also something we can change. We can change it as a mindset. It is something that we look at, that we can have when we look at our kiddo, if we're willing to change the way we're seeing our kid. So maybe we'll talk about more about that. I'll write myself a little note for us to talk about unconditional positive regard. And then the last thing, what we teach when we apologize is that there's no shame in apologizing, right? I am not a bad person when I have to apologize. Did I make a stupid decision, right? Maybe, yeah. Right, but there's no shame in that. I don't have to feel bad about myself as a person, as a human being, as a mom, as a therapist, as a wife, as just like this human woman that's a whole person out there walking around, right? There's no shame in apologizing. I can do that. Now, I think some of us have an easier time doing this than others. And sometimes our kiddos are going to need time, right? They're not going to be able to enter into this apology. They're not going to enter into this just immediately after it's done. Sometimes they need some time to process, to think on this. And sometimes they will be. Sometimes you will be parenting a kiddo that needs to apologize right then. They need to repair that relationship right then. I naturally am a quick apologizer because I need to repair the relationship as quickly as possible. Like I need that as like personally, not for anyone else in the relationship, right? But for my own needs. And that is my personality coming out. That is just who I was created to be. And so some of us, even like my husband, he needs some time to process it, right? And so we've got to figure out the dance, right? If my husband needs time to process and think through, then I have to recognize he needs that time. This is not about me. This is about him coming to conclusions, coming to this on his own time. And then we come back and we repair when necessary. My kiddos are completely different in this as well. And so you just have to recognize how does your kiddo need to be parented, right? I always say to my husband, we're going to parent the children we were given. We're going to parent the kiddos we've got, not the kiddos we thought we were going to have 5 years ago, 6 years ago, before we became parents. Okay, so setting some expectations. So some things we're going to do when we set expectations is verbalize our expectations and model them. So we're going to do both. We're verbalizing what we expect. This to me brings in that grace, right? Like we're going to verbalize exactly what's going on if we can, to the extent that we can. And then I'm going to model these expectations for asking for forgiveness and for showing grace. So if I'm showing that unmerited favor, right, for my kiddos or for a kiddo in my care in the playroom, then I'm not only going to try to model this in what we're doing, I'm also going to try to verbalize this through words and through setting expectations. And I feel like this is foundational for relationships. So Brene Brown says, clear is kind. I mean, I just love that. I wish I could have come up with something like that. But clear is certainly kind. So I'm going to be clear about this. And when I'm apologizing, I'm going to be very clear about what's going on, right? I have an expectation for my kiddos. I'm going to be so clear about that as much as I can be in the moment and say, this is what I know. This is what I know right now. This is what I expect from you. This is what I expect from myself. So those are just some tips I want us to keep in mind. So I'm sorry, I keep moving this video screen up and down. It's driving me crazy getting in front of the words. All right, so we're going to go through 3 examples quickly because I know our time's running out. So example number 1, Sally refused to put on shoes to leave for school, church, some kind of new event, right? So, so we've got my frowny face here. Ooh, the worst thing, not the worst thing. I don't want to say the worst thing. Something I don't want us to do is scream and lose it. I don't know how you describe it. I think losing it's probably pretty universal, but this is us becoming completely dysregulated. So our kiddo is in this stubborn moment. What I don't want us to do is take it to the next level, right? I'm not trying to heighten their anxiety because likely what I have to say is, okay, they may be tired and they feel a little strung out. Maybe they're going to, like I said, a new event. Maybe they're doing something new for the first time. They're nervous about who's going to be there, about what to expect, right? Okay, so I'll say the kind of middle thing, something that I feel like is kind of common that we do that we may not realize is not helpful in these kind of situations is to lecture our kiddo, right? Nobody needs a lecture. Nobody needs a lecture at this stage, right? Motivational speeches come later, guys, when our kiddos have more stamina and a longer attention span. But here we're not going to lecture because we know that's not really meeting the need. That's not getting down to the bottom of it. But what I can do is have patience and I can validate their feelings. So I might say something like, oh, Sally, I know you just want to stay here and watch this TV, don't you, underneath your special blanket, right? And they may say, yeah, that's exactly what I want to do. And you say, I know going new places is tough. It is so hard for us to go new places, and we're going to do this together. Like, we're going to be together this whole time. And you validate those feelings. You say, like, I bet you're feeling a little anxious, aren't you? You seem a little stressed. Your eyebrows are crunched in, and your fists are wound up tight, tight, tight. And so we are going to validate what they're feeling. Sometimes I will do this, especially in the therapy room, because I mean, I know my kiddos' signals a little bit better. But even with my own children, I don't hit the nail on the head all the time. But if I do this, what happens is if I'm off the mark, they'll tell me. They'll tell me, I'll have a 6-year-old say, no, I'm not angry. I'm frustrated, right? So they might make this nuance of 2 words that are kind of similar. They'll say, no, I'm frustrated. I'm annoyed. Or I got angry earlier today. I'm not angry right now, but I got angry earlier today. Or I'm sad, right? And so I might miss those cues, or I might take a guess and they'll correct me. And then if they can do that, I love it because then I get to be curious, right? Which is one of our things. We want to be patient, accepting, curious, and empathetic towards our kids always. So then I get to be curious and I get to say like, oh, okay, I missed the mark on that. I missed the mark on that. Not him. I missed the mark on that. Tell me more. So you're frustrated. I wonder what made you frustrated, right? So that's what I'm looking for in example number 1. You stay regulated, guys. Number 2, Timmy gets a green bowl. Timmy hates green bowls. It's a Tuesday. He doesn't do green bowls on Tuesday. You didn't know that, Mom? And Timmy breaks down, right? So I would say my frowny face on this one is just 0 adult regulation again. Like, we slam the bowl with the macaroni and cheese into the sink, and we're like, fine, you don't get any macaroni and cheese. Or fine, you don't need a snack right now, right? We just kind of lose it and whatever else. And the middle of the road might be something like rolling eyes or kind of shaming them. And you might say something like, well, you're 10 years old. This is not how 10-year-olds act, right? Well, if he's 10 and that's how he's acting, then 10-year-olds do act like that, right? I don't know why we say things like that, because they are acting that way, and that is what happens, right? But we use that as a shaming technique. Teachers are sometimes at fault here. And when I was teaching in the classroom, I was a junior high teacher before I became a social worker. And I would definitely do this, because I would see these people sometimes bigger than me. I'm not very tall, but they would be taller than me. And I would think, they look like adults. Shouldn't they have their crap together, right? That's what I would be thinking. Shouldn't they have it together by now? No, they're 12, they're 13. They still don't have fully developed brains. And so your 6-year-old with his definitely underdeveloped or not yet fully developed brain, I should say, you want them to stay regulated? I don't know what it is about the green bowl. It may be just that we're feeling a little out of control. We're hungry. We're tired. And so this just set us off. And so what we need to do is help our child to co-regulate. We've got to stay regulated so we can then help them co-regulate. Take some deep breaths, take a walk. Maybe we need to eat our snack outside while we ride our bikes. Put it in the basket in the front of the bike, stop every 10 seconds. Take a little bite of the snack. Roll a couple of feet and then take another bit of snack or a little drink. We can come up with all sorts of different ways to help our kiddos regulate. But the number one answer to this is if we struggle to stay regulated, then we have to deal with our own mess in that and deal with our own triggers. So maybe we'll talk about that more another time. Okay, example number 3. So we've got a restless night's sleep. Maybe we woke up once or twice. We've got a birthday party. So this is a Saturday. So then we got a birthday party. And then we got to go play soccer, guys. It's soccer season. Get out there, run around, right? And then we've had sugar on sugar, right? Because we had French toast sticks in the morning for breakfast. At the birthday party, we had some cake and ice cream, right? Got to have that cake and ice cream. And then after a sports game, we had a Gatorade granola bar. And then what we had was the worst Saturday afternoon known to man, right? Everybody was melting down. Mom was melting down. Dad was melting down. The kid is definitely melting down, right? Like everything is going downhill. So the worst thing we can do is get into a verbal power struggle, or one of the worst things. I keep saying that, but it's really just one of the things I would say we need to avoid. It's getting into this verbal power struggle. And we think this only happens with younger kiddos, but we're on into the teen years here, right? So then we ignore, dismiss. Maybe we're exhausted. So I'm just going to ignore this away. I'm going to pretend like no one's acting like a wild person there in the living room. And I just go shut the door and watch the Netflix on my laptop in the bedroom. And just everything's going downhill. But what I want us to do, guys, is meet all of the needs, right? So I'm not getting consequences. I'm not punishing at this stage in the game. What I've done is I have evaluated what are my kids' needs here. Now, I know my kid is tired because they didn't really have a great night's sleep. And then they went and played a sports game where they ran. And we're at a birthday party with people, right? And they're not really a people person. And so what I'm going to do is try to set up an environment where even if they don't nap, if your kids are beyond the napping, which I'm sorry for all of us experiencing that, they're beyond the napping. And so I'm going to get them in a quiet place still. I'm going to turn that TV on. They love to watch that Jessie show. Hey, Jessie. I'm going to turn that Jessie show on because it's like a tranquilizer. They just are like, I love her. I want a nanny like that and to live in New York City. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to evaluate and be like, oh gosh, they basically just ate sugar all day. And so I'm going to find like some high protein snacks. Maybe I'm going to do some turkey rolls with some deli meat, right? Give them a little spoon of peanut butter, and I'm going to hydrate them. And I'm going to say, can I just come and sit by you? Because they've had no mom time. They've had no dad time. It's just been other people and they've had to keep on the mask, right? So I'm going to say, can I just be with you? Can I watch that Jesse episode for the 50th time? It's what I want to do, right? Not really. It's absolutely not at all what I want to do on a Saturday afternoon. But if this is going to help meet a need of my kiddo, that's where I want to be. So I hope these 3 examples have helped us to see, like, when we're doing all of these things, we're asking for forgiveness, we're recognizing this is what grace-filled parenting is. This is exactly what grace-filled parenting is. We are giving unmerited favor to our kiddos in all of these examples. Did they deserve or earn our favor? Absolutely not. Other than the fact that they're our kiddos and their children, right? So I can't even say the kids in here are not my kiddos, but they're just children, right? Trying to learn, trying to figure it out. This is where the grace comes in. It's because I'm doing all of these things instead of just like losing it, trying to punish them. Instead of doing all of that, because none of that is grace-filled, right? I'm doing all of these other things. I'm meeting needs. I'm being patient. I'm being curious and trying to figure out what's going on and validating their feelings, right? This is how they've not earned what I'm going to give them, but they're going to benefit from what I give them, right? This is what it's about. This is healthy parenting, and it is challenging. It is hard. It's exhausting. You know, when I see parents come in here, I have no magic wand. I cannot tell them do these 3 steps and you're gonna be fine. You'll never have to come and see me. I wish I had that, but it's absolutely not the case. Parenting is the challenge. Sometimes it is the challenge of our lives, at least for a solid 18 years, if you get 18 years with your kiddo, right? So I started out with a little less because my kiddos were older when they came home to us, but for however many years, that's what you get. You get to put in the work so that later on they will be healthy adults and they will raise healthy families. So you're setting foundations for your extended family. You're setting foundations now for your grandchildren. So we're playing the long game here, guys. This is not a sprint. This is a marathon. This is the ultra marathon, in fact. Ironman. Run 5 marathons in 5 days. I don't even know how people do that. But this is our parenting challenge. I know you guys can do this. I know you guys can do these things. Ask questions. Message us on Facebook. You can find me on the Coleman Center Facebook page. If you're accessing this on YouTube, I'm going to put these links down to a couple of good articles I found that were super easy to read online. I'll put these in the notes or in the comments section. But let us know how we can help you here at the Coleman Center. If you have ideas about something that I've talked about that you'd like for me to discuss more in a parent ed webinar, contact me. Let me know what you're interested in hearing about, or give me ideas about how we can serve you better. Thanks so much. I hope you guys have a super great day. Bye.